So in the last class, we read about where the crocodile was, where did it lay still, waiting for its prey, its descriptions, how did he manage to live right from his childhood, his body parts, the armored ones and the vulnerable ones, right? So today we will move ahead in knowing what did the crocodile feed on. So let's read it before I start explaining. And please be ready with a pencil in your hand. The big crocodile fed mostly on fish, but also on deer and monkeys that came to drink water, okay? Perhaps a duck or two, but sometimes here at the fort, he fed on a pie dog full of parasites or a skeleton cow. Can you mute yourself?
No. Go sing Dano.
Please mute yourself. You're forcing me to mute you all. Okay, I'll do that. So, and sometimes he went down to the burning ghats and found the half-burned bodies of Indians cast into the stream. So let's look into this paragraph, that what all the crocodile fed on. So I want you to underline certain keywords before I start explaining. First keyword here is fish. Please underline and jot it down as point number 1, fish. Point number 2, deer. Point number 3, monkeys. Point number 4, a duck or two. Point number 5, pie dog full of parasites. Point number 6, skeleton cow. And point number 7, half-burned bodies. That is point number 7. So there are 7 keywords. If at all a question is asked, what did the crocodile feed on? You're supposed to mention all these 7 keywords in your answer. Is that clear? Okay, let's get into the explanation of this paragraph. I'll elaborate it. This paragraph tells us what exactly the big crocodile feeds on. So it ate fishes, deers, monkeys, which came to drink water. The crocodiles sometimes used to eat ducks as well, maybe 2 or 3 ducks at a time. And the very next sentence, it is said there's a word called ford. Ford means a stream or a water current. Please write it down. Ford means a stream or water current. And sometimes here at the ford, the crocodile fed on pie dogs. Pie dogs means stray dogs, which were full of parasites, or a skeleton cow. Skeleton means a cow which is very thin and where you can see its skeleton almost visible, the ribs almost visible. So if ford means, yes, Sana, ford means a stream or a water current. Ford means a stream or water current. So sometimes at the ford, the crocodile also fed on pie dogs, which were full of parasites, or a skeleton cow. That means a cow that is very, very thin in structure. So after the crocodile also fed sometimes, the crocodile also moved towards the burning ghats and found the half-burned dead bodies of Indians, and he ate that. Now, a very important point to notice here is, what are these burning ghats? Why is it referred to as burning ghats? Please pay attention. The Hindus believe that the banks of the Ganges, next to the holy city of Varanasi, is the most sacred place on earth to die. I'll repeat. The Hindus believe that the banks of the Ganges, next to the holy city of Varanasi, is the most sacred place on earth to die. It is also believed that anyone who dies here, Hindus especially, okay, anyone who dies here in Varanasi, they break the cycle of death and rebirth and they achieve moksha. So there is no rebirth happening if they die here. This is what it is believed. It is said that the flames of the funeral pyres at Manikarnika, this is a god named as Manikarnika, and it is have been burning since last 3000 years. So dead bodies are burnt there, and in any case there's a heavy rain or any such things, then these burnt, maybe it is half burnt dead body, they are thrown into the water, and this is how it is referred as half burned dead bodies. So in Hinduism, if you see that the dead bodies uh, are cast into the water, especially the dead bodies which are cremated near the ghats are cast into the water. So it's along the Ganges where a lot of last rites happen. Is this clear? Any doubt? You can raise your hand if you have a doubt. Yes, Piyush?
Ma'am, can you repeat what we have to write in this paragraph?
No, I'm just giving you an extra explanation. They don't ask you questions on what are the burning ghats and all. They will just ask you what did the crocodile feed on, or what did it eat. Okay. So shall I proceed now? Okay. Beside him in the shoals means shallow water. Please write it down. Shoals means shallow water. That is not very deep. As he lay waiting, the crocodile lay waiting there, glimmered a blue gem. So glimmered means a faint, giving out a very faint light. Write it down, giving out a very faint light. A blue gem. Now, when the author writes here gem, it's don't think that it is some precious gem here. In the very next line, we are told about it. This is the paragraph where the author gives us the very first appearance of the blue bead, and it talks about the title. Here, the author is basically introducing the title of the story, the blue bead, here in this paragraph, after describing the whole lot about the crocodile in almost 2 pages. Now the author is basically coming towards the title, that is the blue bead. So this blue gem was not a gem. It was sand-worn glass that had been rolling about in the river for a long time. Now, what is a sand-worn glass? Where do you think this glass has come in the water? Anybody? No one here? Okay, I'll tell you. Naturally produced sea glass. So where it is originate from? So if you see, these are the pieces of glass from broken bottles or any broken tableware, or it could be even from a shipwreck, which is rolled for years in the ocean until their edges get rounded off. Do you get that? So by chance, it was perforated. Perforated means pierced. Please write it down. Perforated means pierced. Right through the neck of a bottle, perhaps a blue bead. So the meaning of perforated is pierced with hole. This paragraph indicates a blue colored bead and its appearance, okay? And sand-worn glass, and as if it was there in the river for a long time. Nobody had touched it. It was somewhere around where the crocodile was resting. Let us not forget that the crocodile is there. To perforate means to perforate a bead. Normally, if you have a bead in your hand and to put a hole into it, to perforate it, to pierce it, what would you do? You need to have a hot needle in your hands, right? You need to actually warm a needle, and then you can pierce a hole into it. But here, the bead was already perforated. So how do you think this has happened? How do you think this has happened? How is it possible that a sand-worn glass is already having a, no, Sana, you said that the croc's teeth, no. It was a yes. I'm coming to that point. It is said here, please note it down on page number 94, the last line. It was perforated right through the neck of a bottle, perhaps. So how is it possible? The author is telling us, can you imagine the neck of a bottle that actually, there is a bottle, there's a glass bottle right in front of you, and it actually broke from its neck. So in the neck of a bottle, there is already a hole in between, right? So when this part of the neck of the bottle had broken from the rest of the bottle, what happens? The neck part would keep rolling, and then it becomes a smooth, rounded structure. So that is why it looked like a blue glass bead. Are you getting it? Any doubt here? Shall I proceed? So it was something that could be, the blue bead looked like something that could be made a part of a necklace, as we would see later in the story. Yes, Zalak has asked me to repeat, what is it? How is the line, the neck of a bottle, perhaps? Now, in a sea, if you come across a bead that is perforated, that is pierced, how is it possible? The only possibility is, suppose there is a bottle, there is a glass bottle, it would have broken off from its neck. So from the neck of a bottle, there is already a hole in between, right? This part of the neck of the bottle that has got broken from the bottle, it had kept rolling years and years in the with the help of the sand, it got worn out, and it had been kept rolling for years and years, and it had become a round structure like a bead. Is it clear? Okay, so I'll proceed. In the shrill, noisy village above the ford, earlier we have learned the meaning of ford, right? Yeah, stream or water current. In the shrill, noisy village, this tells us that the village is very noisy. And what is shrill? It is a high-pitched sound or a very piercing sound. Out of a mud house, the same color as the ground, came a little girl. And please underline little girl. A thin, starveling child dressed in an earth-colored rag. She had torn the rag into to make sari and skirt. Now the meaning of shrill, as I told you, is a high-pitched or a piercing sound. The village is right above the stream, above the water body, which we were referring till now, where the crocodile is lying and all. By now, we know that the village is noisy. Some sort of shrill noise is coming out of the village, and there is a mud house, which means that the people living in that house are not very rich. It's a clear indication that the people living there are very, very poor. Therefore, the author has mentioned mud house. Will you please underline mud house? The same color as the ground came a little girl. Please underline little girl and thin, starveling child. The meaning of starveling is one who is thin due to lack of food. Please write it down. Starveling means one who is thin due to lack of food. One who is thin due to lack of food. Have you written? This is important. Yes, Sana, malnourished. Yes, you're right. Written. And she was dressed in earth-colored rag. Please underline earth-colored rag. What does this indicate? It is maybe because of her habits or the kind of work that she had done that made her clothes dirty. And that is why the color is said to be earth colored. The color of the rag is known as earth colored. That means her clothes were dirty. Please underline and write, her clothes were dirty. And that is why the author has used the word earth colored rag. And she had torn the rag into two. So she had torn the rag into two, a skirt and a sari. Now here we are getting to know the important character of the story. This girl who is poor, living in a mud house, and she had just a piece of rag which she had torn to make a skirt and a sari. Right? Is this clear? Any doubt you can question? Okay, I'll go ahead. Sibia, so the character's name is Sibia, was eating the last of her meal. That means the last meal of the day. Chapati wrapped round a smear of green chili and rancid butter. And she divided this also to make it seem more, and bit it, showing straight white teeth. Now, Sibia was eating the last meal of the day. What was the last meal of the day can come as a question. Please underline chapati wrapped round a smear. Smear means spread. Smear means spread. Please underline smear and write spread. S-P-R-E-A-D, spread of green chili and rancid butter. Now, what is rancid? Please underline and write it down. It is a strong taste or smell of something spoiled. Strong taste or smell of something that is spoiled. So what was the last meal of the day? It was chapati that was spread with green chili and rancid butter. These two keywords are very important. There are three keywords: chapati, smear of green chili, rancid butter. These three keywords must be there in your answer. And she divided this also. When we read this line, we get to know the character of Sibia. Here, she's showing her innocence. Now, what kind of innocence is this that she is dividing that chapati into two to make it seem more, to show us that she is well-to-do, she is well off, she is not that poor. This shows her innocence because she is a child. But she bit it, showing straight white teeth. And it normally happens when you bite something with your teeth is visible. So Sibia's teeth, the straight white teeth, were visible when she bit the chapati. Let's move ahead. With her ebony hair and great eyes and her skin of oiled brown cream, she was a happy, immature child woman. Please underline ebony, great eyes, skin of oiled brown, immature child woman, 12 years old, barefoot, and below, born to toil. These are the keywords. And this is a very important paragraph here. Let's go back. So, barefoot, of course, and often goosey cold on a winter morning and born to toil. So we see here Sibia, a girl who is 12 years old. This has to be noted. Sibia, the character, one of the characters of the story here, she's one of the main characters. She's 12 years old, and if you compare it with the crocodile, it is more than 100 years old, right? So Sibia, a girl who is 12 years old, she had good features. Now, if you look at the word ebony, what is ebony? It is a wood yielding tree. It is hard and dense and black in color. So similarly, Sibia had dark and dense hair. So her hair was great, her eyes were great, and her skin was brown and oiled. Please write there, skin was brown color. It was dark colored. She had dark colored skin. she was not really mature. The line here, immature child woman, can come as a question. Okay, please pay attention. She was not really mature and she was not that understanding because she was just 12 years old. Let us not forget that she is very young. She's just 12 years old. She had nothing to wear beneath her foot, and that is why it is written barefoot. And often she was goosey cold on a winter morning. And what is goosey cold? When out of the chill, out of the cold, out of the severe cold, people develop goosebumps. That is what is being referred here on, yes, Swarara, you're right, goosebumps. And she was born to toil. Born to toil means she had to work hard like a labor. Now, coming back to the most important question here, talking about what does the author mean by saying immature child woman here. Now, if you want, you can mark it out or write it down somewhere. She is being called a child woman because of the circumstances, right? Because of the circumstances. Now, how? She had been made to sacrifice all her wishes. Made to sacrifice all her wishes. One, circumstances. Second point, she had been made to sacrifice all her wishes and to tolerate the conditions like a mature woman. Third point is to tolerate the conditions like a mature woman. Got it? All the 3 points? I'll repeat it again. Point number 1, it's because of the circumstances she was going through. She had to sacrifice. Point number 2, she had to sacrifice all her wishes. And point number 3, she had to tolerate the condition of toiling, hard work. She had to work hard and she had to tolerate this condition like a very mature woman. Got it? Any questions? Okay, I'll proceed. In all her life, this is an important line, children, please pay attention. This particular line is very important. In all her life, she had never owned anything but a rag. Sibia had nothing in her life. Again, this is a very clear indication by the author that she was very, very poor, poverty-stricken background, which she had nothing in her life which she could call her own, except the rag which she had, and she had torn that to make it into a skirt and a sari, as we have read in the earlier paragraph. She had never owned even one anna, not a piece, not a pie, even to buy, say, a handful of blown glass beads. Underline handful of blown glass beads. From that stall in the bazaar, in the next paragraph, you'll come to know where is the bazaar, where they were piled like stars because they were shining. The beads were shining. Or one of the thin glass bangles, underline one of the thin glass bangles, that the man kept on a stick. That the man means the shopkeeper. He had actually displayed all these glass bangles on a stick so that all colors of the glass bangles are visible and you could choose which color you would have. So here we see that Sibia didn't even have an anna or a pi, which is a unit of currency during the old times. Because the story is old, the unit of currency, anna and pi, are being used by the author here. So even if Sibia wanted a handful of blown glass beads or one of the thin glass bangles that the shopkeeper kept for display on a stick, she couldn't have it. She could have nothing because she was poor. And the very first line indicates everything, as I told you, that it is very important. In all her life, she had never owned anything but a rag. Is this clear, children? Any questions, any doubt? Okay, I'll proceed. She knew what finery was. Finery means beauty. Please underline and write. Finery means beauty. She had been with her parents and brothers. Please underline parents and brothers. With whom was Sibia living with? Can come as a question. She was living with her parents and brothers. Please don't write sisters in the answer. All through the jungle to the little town at the railhead where there was this bazaar. As I told you that in the next paragraph, you will come to know where is a bazaar. So here the description of where the bazaar is located is given by the author. And she had walked through all the milling people and the dogs and monkeys full of fleas, the idling, gossiping, bargaining humanity, spitting Beetlejuice, heard the bell of the sacred bull clonking as he lumped along through the dust and hubbub. Now here I want you to underline town at the little town at the railhead. These are the key words. Little town at the railhead. Next, milling people. Next, dogs. Dogs and monkeys full of fleas, that is considered as 1 point. Then idling, gossiping, bargaining humanity, that is the 4th point. Spitting Beetlejuice. Continue till spitting Beetlejuice. Then sacred bull clonking. Have you underlined all these? Yes. So I'll go ahead with the explanation here. So Sibia knew what beauty was, although she was very poor, okay? And she lived with her parents and brothers. And the nearest bazaar to the jungle, where she lived was at the railhead. So in the bazaar was at the little town. The bazaar was at the little town near the railhead. Please note it down. The bazaar was at the railhead. The bazaar was near the railhead. Now, if you see the further sentences, now what is a railhead can come as a question, 1 mark question. Please write it down. The point on railway, write it down. This can come as a 1 mark question. What is a railhead? Point on railway where goods are loaded or unloaded. This is a 1 mark question. Point on railway where goods are loaded or unloaded. Yes, Sahil has a question. Yes, Sahil?
Ma'am, can you repeat it once again?
Yeah, sure. Railhead means point on railway where goods are loaded or unloaded. Point on railway where goods are loaded or unloaded. Clear? Now, if you see the further sentences, it indicates how her life was. So she was walking through milling people. Milling people means the people working at the mills, whose job is grinding things. So milling people, she was walking through milling people, dogs and monkeys infected with fleas, people bargaining and gossiping and spitting Beetlejuice here and there, that is Pan. And there was also a bull clonking. Now, what is the meaning of clonking? Clonking is abrupt honking or sound made by 2 hard objects. So might be there is a bell around the neck of the sacred bull. So it was clonking as he lumped along. Lumped along is like he moved noisily through the dust and the hubbub of, hubbub means commotion. So there was a lot of noise around and yes, somebody has asked me, Yasana, clonking means abrupt honking, or it's an abrupt sound made by 2 hard objects. abrupt sound made by two hard objects. And hubbub means commotion. So amongst all these, the milling people, the dogs, the monkeys, and the humans there, the bull was also walking through the market. Beetlejuice is fun. Okay, who's this Osama bin Laden? Yes? He has left the meeting. I do not know who is this Osama bin Laden. Okay, let us move ahead. She had paused, amazed, before the sweetmeat stall to gaze at the brilliant honey confections, abuzz with dust and flies. So let us not forget that Sibia is in the bazaar. They smelled wonderful, about the smell of drains and humanity and cheap cigarettes. At home, she sometimes tasted wild honey or crunched the sugar out of a stalk of sugar cane. But these sweets were green and magenta. Now here, if you see, will you please underline wild honey? Please underline wild honey. Second last line in page number 95. Wild honey and crunch the sugar syrup out of a stalk of sugar cane. These two. What did Sibia have sometimes at home can come as a question, and these two are the keywords which carries again 1.5 marks or maybe 1 mark. Have you underlined? Okay, let's get into knowing what is written in this paragraph. So we know that Sibia is very poor, and she is right now walking around the bazaar and staring at the things there. And we also know why she is staring, because she doesn't have any money and she is very poor. All that she could do is stare at things which she wishes to buy. She is very poor. And she was staring at the sweetmeat stall and honey confections. Now, confections means, please underline and write, food items prepared sweet, or any sweet food item. You can write sweet food item. That's in simple language, you can write sweet food item. So she was staring at the sweetmeat stall, mithai ki dukan, and she was staring at all the sweet food items that were there at display in the store. She used to stare at these which were abuzz. Abuzz means making a lot of noise with dust, and the flies were actually buzzing around over the sweets. So when do the flies buzz around? When the sweets are kept open and not covered with anything. So we find the flies moving around. And there was a lot of dust, because we have already seen in the earlier lines which speaks about the bazaar, the dogs and monkeys full of fleas. That means it is not a very neat and clean bazaar. And these smelled wonderful, even though there was smell of drains and cigarettes around. Now, looking at the sweet stall itself, Sibia felt that it smelled wonderful to her. And even though there was a smell of drain, she could smell the drains and the cigarettes around, the sweetmeat stall, it smelled wonderful to her. She was actually amazed at it. At home, she had sometimes tasted wild honey or sugarcane syrup, but yet, if you see, she stared at the sweets because, why did she stare? If she had sometimes at home these sugar cane syrup, or let's say wild honey, why do you think she kept staring at the sweetmeat stall? Because the color of the sweets grabbed her attention. What is the color of the sweets given here? What is the color of the sweets given here? Green and magenta. The color of the sweets, green and magenta, grabbed her attention. Is it clear? Any doubt, children? Shall I proceed? Okay, no one has raised their hand, so I'll proceed next. Then there was the cloth stall. So now Sibia moved ahead in the bazaar. She's actually walking through the bazaar. At first, she saw people, dogs, monkeys, and then she moved ahead to the sweet stall. Now she's moving ahead to the cloth stall there, stacked with great rolls of new cotton cloth. So obviously a cloth stall will have cloth in it, stamped at the edge with the maker's sign of a tiger's head, and smelling so wonderful of its dressing, straight from the mills, that Sibia could have stood by it all day. Now again we see that the route through which Sibia was walking, there were many shops. One of the shops was a cloth stall. Now there were various types of cloths there, like the cotton cloth. There could be other types of cloth as well, but the author here has specified only about the cotton cloth. And it was stamped at the edge with the tiger's head as a design. And those clothes, it smelled very good to her. Normally when you go to a cloth stall, there is a different smell that comes out. Sibia was fascinated by all these things. She was so fascinated to see all these things that she could stare at it the entire day. If she was left to stare at all these things the entire day, she would happily do it, because she always had the desire to own, but she had never owned anything in her life except a rag. Can you remember the earlier line which we have already read? Page number 95, fourth paragraph. In all her life, she had never owned anything but a rag. That is why I told you that that line is very, very important. She could not own anything because she was poor. All that Sibia could do is only stare at things. Is it clear? Shall we move ahead, children? Any questions? Just a minute. Somebody has written their chats. Okay, fine. Okay, I'll move ahead. But there were other wonders to see. I think the time is up. So we'll stop here. And children, do you have any questions? No? Okay, so we'll have a short recap of what we have done today. So we have learned about the title, the blue bead, where it has been introduced, and how did it have a hole in it which made it look like a bead exactly. And then we have learned about where does Sibia live, and what did she eat, how did she look like, description about Sibia, and then what all she had. Yes, Arnav Naik, you have a doubt? I'll come back to you. So where was the bazaar, and what all Sibia stayed at the bazaar? Arnav Naik, I'll come to you. You have a question? Yes, Arnav Naik. Arnav Naik?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you. Ma'am, why it is said
Naik, I'm not able to hear you.
ma'am, why it is said that Sibia was a happy, immature child woman?
Yeah, she was happy because she is very young. She's just 12 years old. An immature child woman, the reason I gave you, because she has to toil hard. Although she is of a very young age, she's just 12 years age, but she had to work hard like any other woman. Because her circumstances, she's very poor, and the circumstances have forced her to work hard like a labor at a very young age. That is why happy child woman.
Understood.
Is
Thank
that
you,
clear?
Thank you, ma'am. My doubt is clear.
Okay.